Hi, welcome to the CalmWaves podcast. I'm your host, Dallas Cowan. I'm joined by Dr. Doug Cowan today. Thank you for joining us here on the CalmWaves podcast, where we talk about brain health and performance technologies and systems and processes. And so I'll just jump right into it today. So we're going to talk about these couple different categories that we really like and what we kind of built our processes on. And this is all done from just the years and experience that Dr. Doug has had in the mental health space. And these areas are going to be in the areas of direct neurofeedback, in the areas of cranial electrical stimulation, some of those technologies, traditional neurofeedback, and then also blood flow trainers. So prefrontal cortex blood flow trainers. So before we jump into it, Dr. Doug, what are your kind of, like, as you look at these types of different avenues, what got you into these in the first place?
Well, it was a lot of years ago, Dallas, where I had been working at a psychiatric hospital. I was running a children's inpatient unit and an adolescent inpatient unit, and on the side I had a CHAD support group that I had started. And then even after I had left hospital and gone back into private practice, I kept the CHAD group going. And so one night we were actually meeting at the hospital, and there were a bunch of parents there, 120 parents. And one of the moms had asked me at the conclusion of the meeting, when I was taking questions, what do you know about this new treatment called neurofeedback, brainwave biofeedback, for the treatment of ADHD in children? And I just told them it doesn't work. And she asked me, how do you know it doesn't work? And I said, because I know everything there is to know about the treatment of ADHD in children and teenagers, and I don't know anything about this, so it doesn't work. And she was really great. She says, Doug, we love you, but your ignorance of a subject does not make you an expert in that subject. So I agreed, that I was an idiot and I needed to go figure this out. So the next day I called the guy who had been on television. It was Siegfried Othmer, who's one of the icons in the field of brainwave biofeedback. And Siegfried invited me to lunch. We went down there and met, had a great time with him as he explained a whole bunch of stuff I didn't know, and invited me to a training meeting. And that's how I got into it. I spent 5 days with him training, along with about 100 other professionals. And yeah, all of a sudden I was in the world of exploring this world of brainwave biofeedback. So I started using it in my clinical practice, and was really surprised and pleased with the results. We'd get about 7 out of 10 people made positive improvements. Sometimes it would take a while, though. It'd be 20 sessions, 30 sessions, maybe 40 sessions before they reach their treatment goals, but they would reach their treatment goals. So this was as opposed to, let's say, Ritalin, that would be helpful in about 20 minutes at the right dose, but it would wear off and it wasn't actually doing anything, in terms of long-term benefits for the brain. So this was like exercising the brain, people learning how to drive their own brains. And it was very fascinating. So that's what got me into this world that also then involved direct neurofeedback and blood flow neurofeedback and all of these other things we're going to talk about today.
That's great. And I know we can do a whole episode probably on, the difference between pills and prescription drugs versus traditional neurofeedback. But we'll save that for another day. But for now, let's go into direct neurofeedback, because it is the one that I think we are the most excited about. It's the one that you lately in your practice, before coming and just doing training, used in order to help people. So let's just go into like direct neurofeedback and what it is, describe it, kind of maybe some sciencey things behind it. But what is direct neurofeedback?
So let me compare and contrast it with this traditional brainwave biofeedback. So in brainwave biofeedback, the client, the patient, is learning from the technology how to change and control their own brainwave activity. And part of what it is that we would teach people in traditional neurofeedback is how to inhibit slow brainwave activity that is it's running amok. I mean, they're from either a head injury or ADHD or whatever, but slow brainwave activity needs to be controlled better. And so that's like delta activity, delta waves or theta waves, rarely, but sometimes alpha activity, slower brainwave activity. So one of the things you would do in traditional neurofeedback is you would take time and learn how to inhibit it. And when you inhibit slow brainwave activity, we call that focus. And people do better. So we can also train them to make more alpha activity or slow beta activity or whatever, and they can enhance the degree of focus. But really the magic is in inhibiting the slow brainwave activity that's kind of running amok. Well, then this other technology started. I mean, I did research on it 30 years ago now with Dr. Len Oakes. And he had a system where to try to take the learning out of the program and just have something that acted on the function of the human brain to inhibit slow brainwave activity and optimize brain performance. And it was a direct form of neurofeedback. It was, at the time, it was little flickering lights that you close your eyes and these lights would flicker, but the lights were not like the sound and light machines you can buy on Amazon now. They were driven off a person's own brainwave activity. So they were in sync with the brainwave activity, but offset slightly faster, slightly slower. And the net result was that the slow brainwave activity was being worked on and was lowering. And so people were getting well. And it was fascinating to watch people with anxiety disorders anxiety, panic attacks to the point of being on disability would get well in 5 or 8, 10 sessions. And ADHD would respond to it. Head trauma would respond to it. It was really fascinating to watch this when the people weren't learning anything. They were just, they could be watching TV, they could be reading a book. I mean, they weren't learning anything. But the brain was changing because this technology had this signal that we thought was from the flickering lights acting on the brain. And it turns out it wasn't the flickering lights at all. It was the little electric pulse from the amplifier and the computer system to the little electric lights to get them to flicker. It was the little electric pulse on this wire laying over people's shoulders going up to the glasses. So at some point, they just cut the glasses off, threw them in the trash, and just laid the electric wire over people's shoulders, and they still got the same results. So that was the grandfather of the technology that we use now. And the technology now is still very, it's very powerful. It's a little bit more elegant, maybe a little more efficient than it was. What we had in the past was great. And what we have today is the best thing I know of for working with people who have some kind of a mental health issue or a brain injury or something that they want to fix, something they want to recover from. So the amplifier now, I'll show you this ugly box wrapped up in wires, but this is the size of the amplifier now, and it plugs into my laptop. And with the wires, I wire people up. I put 2 electrodes on the forehead and some reference wires on the ear and a ground wire on the back of the neck. And we pick up the person's brainwave activity on my laptop. And then the system, the software system, real quickly sends back a signal. So this is a special amplifier in that it's a 2-directional amplifier, unlike other traditional neurofeedback that's just getting the brainwave activity and then doing the teaching thing on the computer screen. That's a 2-way thing. So a really tiny pulse of electricity energy comes back to the person. You can't feel it. You can feel the results of it, but you can't feel the pulse. It is so small, maybe 1 in 5,000 people can feel it. And it's like 1,000,000 times less than the energy coming off a cell phone, maybe less than that. So it's really teeny weeny tiny is the scientific way of saying it. But because it's so subtle, the brain responds to it. If it was this much energy, the brain wouldn't respond to it. Your brain would just go, no, thank you. Don't want anything to do with that. It's too much energy. So it's just this really tiny signal. And the results in a clinical setting are very, very good, where 80% of the people who would use it got better. Maybe 85% of the people would get better. And it didn't matter what the diagnosis was. The anxiety or depression or ADHD or head trauma, post-traumatic stress disorder. It's really a dynamic, powerful treatment intervention.
When I talk to people about this, of doing direct neurofeedback and your stories and even my personal experience with it, a lot of people will say, it's unbelievable, or people say, how do you know it's not placebo? And one of the people that we've trained to do this out here in Arizona and Cave Creek area has taken it on himself to also do the direct neurofeedback on horses. And so I just actually had a conversation with him this last week about seeing how that's been going. And he has some photos, and we'll interview him at some point to get him on here, and he can share his stories. But he was showing me photos of horses that are very anxious. You can see in their eyes, just wide-eyed. I mean, horses are fight and flight.
Head up.
Head up. Horses are fight and flight people. I mean, they're flight. There's no fighting them, barely. It's just, how do I get out of here? They are the prey. And so their eyes get super wide. And he's done, 3 different stems on them, a session on them, and they're calm and they're walking around, and people are just seeing how they're different horses. And so when people ask about placebo, horses don't do placebo. I mean, if this was just placebo, they would have just been the same anxious horse. But he's doing his own little research study going on, and it's been really fascinating to see from an animal perspective how this has worked from the direct neurofeedback. One of the stories that
I've seen people with dogs and horses.
Dogs and horses. Yeah,
dogs and horses I've seen. Yeah,
it is unbelievable. One of the stories that I you've told me, and you've gone through the process. I mean, you've got the kind of the extremes of of people who have done, a couple sessions and, gotten better. But tell me a little bit about the story of because this is on the extreme side. This is many, many sessions, but where you got him from when you saw him to where, he kind of is today. But the young man who went through the windshield of his car and was on the side of the road for a while.
Yeah, this young man was from the town that I used to live in, up in the mountains above Central California, and he was a sports hero there. He was a baseball player and had done really, really well at the high school, kind of an icon in the town. And he went off to some North Midwestern state to play baseball, which, as me, a Southern California baseball guy, it's like, why? Nobody goes to Nebraska, South Dakota to play baseball. Nobody goes there.
Cold.
Minnesota, nobody goes there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, from Tehachapi, you're in 5,000 feet, and everybody played baseball in the cold. So, so he went up there and playing at some university, and it was Friday night, and his girlfriend broke up with him, and he was bummed out, and he went to a party and got drunk and was driving drunk, hit some ice, had a wreck, rolled his truck several times, went out into a field, got thrown through the windshield of the car, laid in the snow for 8 hours. Like, that's bad. Like, you're going to die. It's bad. So a farmer found him in the morning, and all those things, saved his life. Being in the snow, being packed in snow and stuff. But it was bad. So they airlifted him to the nearest real hospital and put him into a coma. Called his parents, said, you should come out here and you should say goodbye, because this is not going to end well. So mom and dad flew out there. Mom was a nurse, and they just loved God and said, we don't believe this is the end with our son, so you just keep stabilizing him and we'll figure it out from there. So they got him stable, came out of the coma, but he was not good, but he was stable enough to move him. So they got him to a facility in California that was like a brain rehab thing. And he was there for about a year. And so then when I met him, he walks into my office, and he just was this handsome, athletic young man. It's like I couldn't see anything wrong with him. And he says, I want to go back to college, want to get a job. First, I got to learn how to write my name again. I thought, okay, here we go. So his brain had been just beat up. So I did about 50 sessions with him, and we saw him make progress, a lot of, good progress, but he was not where he needed to be. He started a college class toward the end of the 50 sessions. So this is like twice a week figure. So about 6 months of treatment. And he failed that, but he was in the class, but he failed it. He just couldn't keep up with stuff. So then the family moved up to Idaho because they went up there fishing one day and came back and put the house up for sale and moved to Idaho. And it's pretty cool. So mom was a nurse, so we trained her in how to use the system and gave her an extra system to use. And she did like another 50 sessions with him. So about 100 sessions, about a year worth of treatment. And he went back to school and he graduated college. And just last summer, got married, put it on Instagram, he and his bride on horseback in another state, riding into the sunset after their wedding. It's pretty cool. So he's living a good life. And, call it a miracle or call it whatever. I mean, certainly God intervened with him. God was merciful to him. The technology was helpful to him. And yeah, it's an amazing story, because nobody would have bet on that when he was first put in the hospital. They would have bet on going to die or he's going to be a vegetable. Those are your two choices. Not, oh yeah, he's going to graduate college, get married, do really well. So that was quite a story. It was a real privilege to work with him, but he went through a lot. So we had to rebuild a whole bunch of his brain. And the brain, brain's very plastic. That's the word that we use. Neurogenesis is a real thing where the brain can regrow, and neuroplasticity is a real thing where the brain adapts to its environment, whether it's good or bad environment, or a environment that brings healing to the brain. The brain adjusts to it, and the brain is good at taking out the trash and growing what it needs to grow. New pathways, new neurons, it grows. So until we die, the brain can keep growing. And frankly, everybody listening to this, everybody that I know, we all can work on having the kind of brain we want to have if we just put in the work on it, because the brain will adjust to what we require of it, what we want from it. It may take a while, it may take a year, but the brain will adjust. That's how we learn new habits. That's how we get rid of old habits. That might take 90 days or so, but the brain adjusts to what it is we want from it. So, yeah, it took him a year of hard work, but he came a long way, for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. It's one of the stories that I love, and when people ask, does direct neurofeedback help? I always think of that story of over time of helping him, somebody who went through the windshield of a car and was basically on the side of the road. Part of his story. And
if that's placebo, we all want that pill. We all want that sugar pill, right? If that's
absolutely.
placebo.
Absolutely. It's a pretty, speaking of another thing that people have said, I don't know if this is placebo, but I think this is helping. Kind of switching gears into this other technology that we really like. And as my dad and I were talking before the show, just about, okay, how do we categorize these? How do we put this in a bucket so that people can kind of try to understand what these are? One of the things is the direct neurofeedback. You're putting the electrodes on your head, energy coming in. The same thing as this next technology, where it's not, but the difference is it's cranial electrical stimulation. And the difference is it's not based off of your brain wave. So I've got it right here for people who are listening. It's this little box that you can just turn on. It's super simple. Yeah, we all have one next to us because we all use it. Yeah. It's one thing about these products. We all use these. And that's the reason why we just built it. But it comes in this little package right here. And what I really like about this is, we call this kind of the little brother of the direct neurofeedback. It's the gateway into brain performance is the other thing. I was actually just with somebody because people are sometimes weird about saying you're putting energy into my brain. That's a strange thing. Like, there's words that we can't use, like we're going to zap your brain, or it's going to wire you up. People get really kind of,
at least not the first time.
Not the first time. It's a joke afterwards.
Yeah.
But those types of things. But these products are medical graded products. They are FDA approved. They've been, the direct neurofeedback's been around how many years? 20 years, maybe.
Direct neurofeedback. Well, I started doing the research with what was then the Flexic system 30 years ago.
30 years ago.
In its current iteration, 25 years probably.
CES unit, how long that's been around for, do you think?
35, 40 years.
Yeah. Like these are tried and true technologies. These are not something that someone just put on Shark Tank and said, look, I built this in my garage recently. Yeah. And these are real things. So what I love about the CES unit, I was telling my my dad too, a story just the other day, just yesterday. I had the CES unit here, and a mom came in, my wife's friend, and she's a trauma nurse, and she deals with a lot of stress in her life. She comes back of a lot of, she talks about deaths that just kind of keep up with her and things like that. And very nice, very kind, high energy. And he said, hey, try this. She wanted to try it. She's like, I want to see what this is. She's like, is this hard to use? No, put it on your ears, turn it on. Boop, done. And immediately she just went, oh, this is just relaxing me. Like the world is slowing down a little bit more. So, Dr. Doug, I want you to go into why does that happen with a cranial electrical stimulation?
Yeah, so they're similar. They're on the earlobes. You can put patches on the head or the wrist or whatever, but earlobes is 90% of how it's used. And as a technology, they're probably really similar to what's known as transdermal stimulation, TDCS, or things like that. But the energy involved with them is more, actually considerably more than the direct neurofeedback, which is almost like nothing. It's like nothing. But it's still not very much. They're in 100 hertz square wave pulses. So they go from earlobe to earlobe, like right through the middle of your brain, right? Which is where the limbic system is. So you got the spinal cord and all these nerves that come up and tell you what's going on, and pulses go back down, up and down. And then you have the limbic system, which middle of your brain, you got two of them. And that's where, like, you have the hippocampus, which is a short-term memory stick, and at the bottom of it, you have the amygdala, and that's the warrior of the brain. The fight or flight thing comes from there. The amygdala looks at everything going on in your life and decides that's good, that's bad, we better get some help, and then, run away or fight it or whatever. Labels everything from childhood. So this is why there are a whole lot of 30-year-olds who don't like Santa, because at 3 years old, parents are forcing them to sit on this guy's lap, get a picture. And the amygdala labeled it bad. Large guy, big beard, red suit, not good. So, these are all stored in our brain. And a lot of other things are from the limbic system. It's surrounded by the cortex. The 70% of the brain is there to inhibit the other 30%. It's kind of how you figure it. So the limbic system does all of our emotions, including fear, anger, anxiety, some depressions, and that can be more cortex stuff, but some chronic pain. So the brain is efficient enough that where pain might start in the cortex and the sensory motor strip, that's acute pain, but over a period of time, 6 months or a year, the pain is generated now in the limbic system to conserve energy from the cortex. So this is where you get phantom pain. A back surgeon has fixed your back and you still feel pain. So you want to have another surgery, and the surgeon's going, no, you're fixed. So as an aside, the number one prescriber of Xanax in the country is a back surgeon, because he knows that this part of the brain that causes anxiety is also the part that generates long-term chronic pain. So when he has fixed somebody's back in surgery, and 6 months later they come back and they're still in pain, and they want another surgery, he gives them Xanax and the pain goes away, because it's working on this part of the brain. That's how Xanax works. It's not a great long-term solution, but neither is, agonizing pain. So that's as an aside. So what we know about the direct neurofeedback, right? So in this system here, this autonomic nervous system, we have two parts of it. This is a long answer, isn't it? Two
Love
parts of it. You have the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. So the sympathetic nervous system is from this fight or flight, you're stressed out. Once it kicks on, it's hard to turn it off. And the parasympathetic nervous system is the let's turn this off nervous system. So I didn't name these. The sympathetic nervous system stresses us out. And it can be acute, like, this is terrible. Whatever's happening right now, we can be wigging out about it. Or it can be low grade, that's just a drip of adrenaline all day. And you're just running all the time, hair on fire stuff, always stressed out, which leads to all kinds of problems in the human body, give it enough time. Heart stuff, and it leads to all kinds of problems. The parasympathetic is I'm in a jacuzzi, sipping on an iced tea with a little umbrella in it in Bermuda. That's that part of the nervous system. I am so relaxed and chilled out. I can't even explain it to you. This is fabulous. Problem is that in the nerves that we have, that we're wired 2 to 1 to be stressed out. The system that's there to keep us alive, and the number of wires, the 12 cranial nerves that are related to these two parts of the autonomic nervous system, 8 of them are in the sympathetic nervous system, 4 of them the parasympathetic nervous system. So what that ends up meaning is we're all driving Corvettes with bicycle brakes. So it's easy for us to go fast, and it's really hard for us to stop. So we have to do things to kick in the parasympathetic nervous system in order to slow down the sympathetic nervous system once it's turned on. So we have to do these interventions to do that. And slow breathing. Whenever somebody goes, they're stressed out, and they have this automatic kind of reaction to try to slow it down. So that's where people learn how to breathe. That there are all kinds of coaches out there. All they do is teach people how to breathe. The 4x4x4x4 breathing, or box breathing, or 4x6, or 4x whatever, and they're trying to get you to slow down your breathing to tell the sympathetic nervous system, you're not being chased by a bear. Nobody chased by a bear breathes this slowly. And let it shift over in the parasympathetic nervous system. That can work sometimes. This ETF tapping, love it. Even though I'm totally freaked out, I can love myself because God loves me, and my family loves me, and my dog loves me. And so I can be at peace. And we learn how to activate the nerves, the nerve endings of these nerves that are involved with the parasympathetic nervous system. And they help us to shift from sympathetic to parasympathetic. So, CES unit. The direct neurofeedback does this really, really well. Shifts people from sympathetic into parasympathetic really, really well. That's why it's a fabulous treatment for anxiety disorders, panic attacks, whatever, post-traumatic stress disorder. This does it well. Not as good as the direct neurofeedback, but really well. So these are FDA approved for the treatment of anxiety, depression, and insomnia, and work really well when the anxiety is going to be generated from the limbic system. And when the depression is generated from the limbic system, it works really well. And when the insomnia is because of the limbic system being wigged out, it works really, really well. It calms down that part of the brain. May also work with chronic pain. It's not approved for the treatment of that, but it may also work for that if that chronic pain is generated from the limbic system, just like the direct neurofeedback I have seen that help some people who have bad chronic pain when it's generated from the limbic system. So, if they have a nail sticking out of their head, it's not going to help with that. But you got to take the nail out, right? But if it's this long-term pain generated from the limbic system, both of these systems are very, very good at turning down the volume of the sympathetic nervous system and turning up the volume of the parasympathetic nervous system and just chill out the human brain. They're very good at that. I mean, reliable 8 out of 10 times. Like your friend, like Ellie's friend, just in a matter of minutes, some people feel it and just relax. Just go, are you kidding me? This is great. So both systems are very, very powerful for that.
And what we like to do with this too is it's super portable. I mean, literally, I throw this in my backpack and you're good to go. Yeah. So, and it's very simple to use. There's no, what setting do I put it on? You turn it on and it just runs. So it's helpful and it's super simple. We recommend, from a performance standpoint, we recommend athletes that we work with to do it pre-game and post-game. So pre-game helps calm you down enough to be like, okay, I'm going to be focused. I'm not thinking about what if we lose this game? What does this look like? Kind of helps them calm down enough before, going in, kind of getting into that peak performance state, as you might say, that flow state. Just makes you a little bit more calm. And then post game, after you've had the rah and your adrenaline is up and you've gone through your thing, common thing that when we're talking with professional athletes is trying to fall asleep after a game. What do I do? And so this has been very effective to help the athletes fall asleep, to, not to turn to prescription drugs or alcohol or weed. So this is the alternative, because all those other things have long-term effects and even short-term effects. So this is an alternative for them that's much more natural driven, of going, let's identify the part of the brain that, if it's as you said, in the limbic system, let's turn that down, turn the volume down of the brain so that you can go to sleep or focus for the game. So we are huge fans of these, just because of how, as you said, how quickly they can use. And again, it's not as cool as the direct neurofeedback, but the direct neurofeedback does take somebody operating it and knowing what they're doing, and it takes more of a clinical session type of environment. But the CES unit, man, it's a powerful tool in and of itself.
Yeah, I'll tell you, if I was king, every American serviceman or servicewoman, any veteran, would have one of these. They would have them while they're in the service. They'd have access to them. But the day of their discharge, they would be issued one. Mm-hmm. And just a deal, or a year before their discharge, or 6 months before their discharge, they'd be issued one to deal with post-traumatic stress disorder and all the other stuff that goes with it. And I saw the YouTube video of a General Xenakis, starts with an X, can't pronounce it, made quite a plea. He had studied CES units to 5 different manufacturers. He studied all 5 manufacturers. And with veterans with post-traumatic stress disorder, all 5 of manufacturers made significant differences at healing post-traumatic stress disorder in veterans. And he made this impassioned plea to this board at the FDA to please just approve this for the treatment of post-traumatic stress disorder so doctors can prescribe it. Mm-hmm. Nope. No, we got depression, anxiety, insomnia. That's good enough for us. No, it's like when we see what's happening with veterans today how much the trauma of combat impacts people from Vietnam. There aren't too many Korean War veterans, although I have worked with some Korean War veterans, actually. But there are few of those and few of Vietnam veterans still today, but impacted certainly by combat, even today, 50 years later. But, serving in the Middle East, Afghanistan, this is not good. It's not a good situation. And for the FDA to just go, nah, we're not going to do that, was terrible. So that's an off-label use, but it's one that, I would say families of veterans need to look into, because it can be very, very helpful tool. Because like you say, just throw it on, turn it on, start your day, turn it on again at night, and it works fantastic.
And we usually do is we just let them have it if you buy it online, get a 30-day money back guarantee. But if I'm with somebody and I have this, I go, try this for a week, see what you think. And usually they end up purchasing one just because they go. And if not, then it's like, okay, we know that it didn't, and maybe help them just for a little bit. Yeah, it's a great tool. It's both of these tools are very they're underutilized in spaces that deal with trauma or PTSD or anxiety. We just helped a nonprofit establish a center using the direct neurofeedback to help with aged out foster kids. And the conversation around that was they were just over counseled. They were out talked. Yeah. Over talking basically. And, my experience is that's true. I mean, they just don't want to have to reestablish a relationship again with somebody in order to walk through. One of the questions that I get, and by the way, I think what we'll do is we'll kind of do a part 2 of this conversation and go through the traditional neurofeedback and the blood flow trainer. So, because we're already at 40 minutes just talking about these two technologies. So
sure,
we can talk about these for a long time, but I lost my train of thought. What was I saying?
Well, all right, let me just say these two tools, the CES unit and the direct neurofeedback, CalmWaves sells those. The other two tools we're going to talk about, CalmWaves doesn't sell those. The CES units, if you're interested in those, and if you know someone dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder or anxiety or depression, it's worth it. So, yeah, we sell them on our website, calmwaves.com. They're made by CESultra.com, CES Ultra, and Michael there runs that company, and you can buy them directly from the manufacturer. And then there are other companies that make them. Fisher Wallace makes a system. It's more complicated than ours. Works good, more expensive, more complicated. And then there are some other manufacturers of them, but those are the two ours. Because I've been working with Michael at CES Ultra for 25 years, buying product from them, using them with my clients. So that is just a company that I know. And Fisher Wallace. One's a toy company and one's
Fisher Wallace.
Okay,
you're right.
So they make a good product as well. Like I say, it's just more expensive. The technology is really good, and it's worth trying. It really is worth looking at the studies, trying it. The direct neurofeedback we sell to clinical space. So that's psychologists, therapists who want it as a part of their practice, schools, like a recovery center or residential treatment facilities, things like that. That's sort of our niche with it. Although we have, we're negotiating with a sheriff's department and any place else where people would have post-traumatic stress disorder. or head injuries. We're negotiating with a university football program for the treatment of their student athletes. But primarily, it's a clinical tool and would be used in the clinical space. And that's how I used it for lots and lots and lots of years.
I remember my question now. What is the difference? Because this is a common thing that I get asked. What's the difference between this and EMDR?
So EMDR works on my hand right here. It works on where the memories stick and the amygdala, and these memories that we would consider traumatic memories, things that all right, so the memories are stored in fragments and not in a chronological order, but sights, sounds, smells, they're stored on here. And it could be something could be a traumatic event that happened last week. It could be a trauma that happened when you were 10 years old. It could be a trauma that happened in combat. They're stored up there. And then something happens today that, well, this reminds me of that. That was bad. So I'm going to tell the amygdala, whatever this is, it's bad. Whatever it is. So that's post-traumatic stress disorder, just Doug's simple version. It's way more complicated than that, but that's kind of a simple thing. It's the trigger for it. So what EMDR does, I'm going to simplify it way down. And if you know an EMDR professional, they're highly trained, it works well. The optic nerve runs right by here.
From your eye, yep.
So your eyeballs, right? It runs right past here. So when they say, okay, I want you to think of this, hold this memory, you're activating that memory. And then you make your eyes move, follow my finger, make your eyes move back and forth, or the lights on the screen, follow the lights on the screen, whatever it is. That it's a left-right movement with your eyeballs, and it jiggles the optic nerve.
Jiggles the brain.
That jiggles the brain. And the jiggle the brain part, if you're a professional doing this, don't be offended. I mean, I did the 5-day training 100 years ago with Dr. Shapiro in LA. And then when I was done, I went to UCLA, where a friend of mine was a professor at UCLA Neuropsych, is a brain anatomist guy, Jim Smith. And I was all excited. I told him all about it. And he said, oh, how much did you pay to learn how to jiggle the brain? That was his line. I'm like, what are you talking about? I learned how to heal people. Well, let me tell you what you're doing. So it was at the time one of the world's experts in brain anatomy that was telling me we're jiggling the brain. So I run with it now. So anyway, it does something here with this memory so that the brain can process this memory, this traumatic event, into long-term memory. Take it down the railroad tracks to long-term memory, where you still remember it, but it's not right next to where all the emotions are going to be associated with it. You know, in the speed of light, speed of electricity, trigger emotions. So it's very powerful. I used to do it a lot, and with awful situations, from firemen to awful situations. And then when I started doing the direct neurofeedback, we got the same results, but and maybe not as fast. EMDR might take 4 or 5 sessions for something really awful, and we might take 5 to 10 sessions, but they didn't have to relive it. They didn't have to go through it every time. And I did EMDR with a kid who had his bike stolen, and he was traumatized and didn't want to go to the park. Okay, whatever. But you talk, that's bad, but you talk to combat veterans about what they remember, firemen about what they deal with. I just could not get myself to say, oh, well, you have to relive this for the next 5 sessions. And
also from a clinical,
I couldn't do it.
From a clinical standpoint, you got the secondary trauma because you're hearing it too. I
got all kinds of stories in my head.
Yeah, so I mean that's a huge thing for any therapist out there too. The difference is, okay, EMDR, you have to build that trust with somebody too to go, hey, by the way, we're going to relive your worst day ever. Trust me. Rather than, hey, we're just gonna hook you up for this thing. We're gonna do about 5 to 10 sessions and you'll be good to go. Like, completely different approach.
We're gonna
from the operator
standpoint. We're gonna put you here next to my stereo. Yeah.
Yeah. From an operator
completely different.
Yeah. From an operator standpoint and from a client standpoint. So going back to the foster care standpoint, the reason why they wanted to do this is because EMDR is something that they do for foster kids. But again, you have to make sure the operator's good to go with handling that type of trauma, and the kid doesn't want to talk about it all the time. So that's why they were really excited about putting the direct neurofeedback into their facilities, because they didn't have to talk about it. Put on music, and they just get through it. So that's a great answer. I mean, I think as you said, EMDR, highly trained people jiggling the brain.
It's really good. I mean, it's powerful intervention. I think it easily could be combined with the direct neurofeedback. It could be combined with CES units to send home with the patients. These things can be combined to get better outcomes sooner.
Yeah,
I mean that's the point of this.
Correct.
The point of being a therapist is not to keep somebody in therapy at $200 an hour, as many sessions as you can. The point is they get relief and health, and they're thrilled with the outcome as fast as you can. I mean, it's a weird job where the point is for them to fire you as soon as you can by being good. That they go, that whatever the pain was I was dealing with, that's gone. Now the pain is paying you. So let's not do that anymore. And that's kind of the point of the job.
Yeah.
So, these tools are very, very great clinical tools. And I mean, you and I both know we've had therapists say, well, it will hurt my cash flow to adopt these technologies. I'm like, what in the world are you thinking? But I'm just a different guy. So
it's
like, let's just get people relief.
Try to get them better faster. And I think but there's enough. It is shocking when we do hear that. They go, what happens to my cash flow if I help them faster? And it's just a different mentality than going, let me try to fix them as fast as we can. Yeah, but then there's enough of those therapists that are out there that we've been able to work with that have had the other result of on the other side going, I love this. This is another intervention that I can be able to bring to the table to help people. So it's
we have a therapist who's buying a unit tomorrow. Whatever day you're listening to this, it's tomorrow. And
Friday.
Tomorrow from when we're recording this.
Yeah, Friday.
Friday. The owner of the counseling center bought a system just 4 months ago. And we trained a team of 4 therapists to use it. And they've gotten such good results that one of those 4 are now like, I want one. I want one for my practice. And what really has convinced her, she's been working with an autistic 8-year-old child, and just seeing the changes in this young man, this 8-year-old, over the course of the first 5 sessions. This therapist was saying this was just unbelievable, the changes with this child, and the parents were cheering them on, and so after just working with the system for like 3 months. This lady's like, I want one. So we're delighted to get her set up with her own system. And then they want to train more therapists because 3 months, this counseling center's had the system. They have a waiting list. So they need to train 2 more clinicians to operate the first system and the second now system. So it's really exciting to see that once people know what they're doing, they can get great results.
Absolutely. No, every time we've been able to establish one of these brain centers, it's just amazing to see. I love just hearing the stories. I mean, because it's allowing the therapist to be creative in their own way as well. They're still able to do what they're doing, still be able to treat people, still be able to not lose their autonomy to a technology, but it just helps them so much in what they're doing and how they're trying to help people. So it just helps them bigger, faster, stronger. That's what we talk about. How do we do something bigger, faster, stronger, whether it's on the performance side or on the health side. Well, this is a great, it's kind of a little bit of a pivot, not going into the the performance side or the training side, but we'll get into that on the next episode. Really wanted to dive into just the direct neurofeedback and the cranial electrical stimulation, and kind of describe just what it does, how does it help people, what kind of situations can be used in, and how it can help people just be bigger, stronger, faster to people that are helping people. So anything last to say before we leave today?
No, there are 2 really outstanding technologies. And I'm looking forward to talking with you about 2 other really, really outstanding technologies.
All right. Well,
it's quite a time to be alive.
Yeah, exactly. And I think people are more looking for more solutions, looking for more ways that they can be helped through technologies like this. And we're just here pushing it forward, trying to educate as many people as we can. So if you have any questions on this, please if you're listening all the way here, thank you. And please reach out if you have any questions on if you are interested in using this in your practice, in your organization, or with somebody that you love. So until next time, signing off for now.